But yes, so they drove into Galicia, and they went to the butcher, and they said, we want 3 tongues, one for each of them. And the butcher says, well, I have no tongues, but I can contact Calgary, and they'll have them sent out on a train. They'll be here before tomorrow. And so they left it at that. They went back the next day to the butchers. They went and picked up their tongues, went to the Sundance, and they were ready to go out to the Ogoyas, the woman's lodge where she was fasting. The white-headed chief said, hold on, you just can't walk out there. I'll take you out there. He gave them Hudson's Bay blankets. He showed them how to wear them so that they could walk out there in a more humble way. They brought them in, and they presented their tongues in Mrs. Bennigan's painted their faces and prayed for them. And when they came out of that Ogoyas, from what Jane told us, she said everybody, it seemed like everybody in the camp was looking at them. And they had, no idea how these white people, they'd never seen this before, these white people coming in and doing something like this. She said to her, she felt like that's where they gained everybody's trust, because after that, everybody knew who they were, and they were so impressed by the gift that these researchers had, the thoughtfulness that they had shown, that from then on, as the study went on, that's how they got their participation, by winning the trust at that moment. But when you go to Siksika and you ask around, well, how come you guys let these researchers even do this study? You hear a whole different story. Right? What Jane perceived and what was the elders' intentions. I didn't bring my little cheat sheets with me, but at Siksika they were able to tell us every person that was present in that lodge of the white-headed chief when those researchers came in. And these were the leaders in the community at the time, the chiefs, the council. But they also have their advisors. Fat Horse, Frank Tries to Fly were 2 of the advisors that we were told about. And after they agreed initially to let the researchers do their work, and they went, and the 3 went to go set up their tent, they sent a messenger out to go get Fat Horse and Frank Tries to Fly, and brought them in and told them, okay, this is what these researchers, these guys from the East just came and told us they want to do. They want to write down our stories. What should we tell them? And what they were advised was, and these elders were looking out for the future. What they were advised was, well, some of our things are in jeopardy of being lost. Some of the things, some of our ceremonies and such are in jeopardy of being lost. We can already see it happening, in particular tobacco planting. By that time, in 1938, already the tobacco planting, which was as big a ceremony as the Sundance itself, had already stopped at Ghana, had already stopped at Ghana. Siksika was the only one that was still doing it. And so the elders said, this is what, if we're gonna write anything down for the future, that we should have this recorded, because our grandchildren, great-grandchildren are going to want to learn about how it's done. So you go ahead and you tell them all about it. You tell them in detail. So if you go into Glenbow today and you look at Jane and Lucian's notes, their field notes, you can even do it online. We had them digitized in the project we did with Glenbow. You can read in detail, step by step, how the tobacco planting ceremony is done, the songs that are used, each thing you do in the ceremony. So very detailed, their origins. It's all in there. Almost every one of the prominent, elders that they visited and wrote down their stories talked about tobacco planting. So whether these researchers ever clued into that, I don't know. Talking to Jane, that didn't come out of my conversations with Jane. And often this is the case. There's not really that much regard when you go into Western research and goes into a community for the fact that they've got their own agenda, and sometimes it might be perceived that the things you're after that there's resistance, or they don't understand questions or whatever. There might just be a whole other agenda operating that people aren't aware of. They never thought about this. Just anytime you want to jump in. So they started carrying out their research. Maslow was there to do his social personality inventory. And of course, while the Sundance was going on, he had the couth to realize this isn't the time and place for it. We'll wait for this to get over. But in the meantime, he did other things. Excuse me. So the first thing you'll see in those field notes of these researchers is the painted teepee designs. Drawings of the camp, and drawings of each teepee design, and descriptions of them. They went around the camp and they talked to these the people that own these lodges, and they, that's, as an outsider, maybe that was the first thing that stood out, was what the heck are these paintings about? So they went around and interviewed about those paintings. And you see this in their field notes. And Jane took photographs of all of those teepee designs. And she had 2 copies of those photos developed. And one she ended up giving to the owners of those lodges, one copy, and one copy she kept for herself. After the whole research project was over that summer, and they came close to that fall, they went back to New York. Maslow asked Jane to send him those photographs that she had of his teepees, and she did. She gave it to him. And he was busy writing a paper called Psychology, Siksika Indian Psychology, and it was an unpublished paper. We found it. It's a thick paper. It's in the archives of the History of American Psychology. And he was busy writing that paper. He asked to use those pictures, and they never came out anywhere in the paper. But then when he had done the paper, he sent it to Jane to have her review. What do you think of what I've written here about their psychology? And she had all kinds of, in the paper in Akron, we got a copy of it. You see all of her notes in the margins about what she thinks about Maslow's ideas. And these notes, when are you going to send my photos back? I want my photos back. Jane never got those photos back, and we never found out what happened to those photos. They're not in Akron anymore. They're not at Glenville. Our best guess was later on in the 1960s, there was somebody working in Calgary named Fisher. He was in the psychology department. And Fisher started corresponding with Maslow. We have some of their correspondence talking to him about synergy, another theory he came up with, which we'll talk about, and how it related to the Blackfoot. And our best guess is that Maslow shared what he had left at home about that experience with Fisher. And that maybe if we were to track him down, we might get another piece of this story. But anyway, this is one of the things that made an obvious impression. A lot of what they wrote in their notes about the Sundance has to do with these teepees.